What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Base Damage. Today we're finally getting back around to some really fun deck profiles. This particular one is definitely budget, and it is themed. If you're here for a particular meta build from Dengeki Bunko, this is not it. Let's just 100% just be upfront honest. This is just a themed deck around a particular series that I enjoy. I really liked the Mahouka Koko no Retose, or the Irregular at Magic High School. If I butchered the Japanese pronunciation of that, forgive me, I'm American. But I did want to make a deck for it, because they actually had quite a few of the cards from the series of the different characters and whatnot. Obviously, it mainly focuses around these two, Miyuki and Tatsuya. Them being the irregular people at the Magic High School. And if you look through all of the Dengeki Bunko set, and if you were to put a play set of every single Mahouka card in here, you have enough to make a deck. You have enough to make a pure irregular Magic High School deck. However, it misses a lot of crucial things. For one, the level 3 doesn't heal. We'll get into each of the individual effects, but basically, there are some non-Mahouka cards in here because there's no Mahouka Brainstormer, there's no Climax Swapper, there's no Anti-Change, there's no heal. So I had to take other cards from the Dengeki Bunko set and include those in there. All in all, for the entirety of the deck, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards are not from the Irregular Magic High School series in here. And it's just kind of stuff you need to be able to use the deck and actually have good cards in there, or at least to make up a couple of the shortcomings of it. But it's kind of fun. I just kind of wanted to make it for just to showing off and just to kind of a proof of concept thing, but also, like I said, to theme it around it. So you can get a lot of these out of the trial deck itself, like your level 1 engine. It's not the best in the world, but it is free from the trial deck, obviously, for the Dengeki Bunko. I forget which one. I think it's the Schwarz side, because there was 2 different ones for Dengeki Bunko. It was the one that had SAO in them on it. It was actually, this was the cover card, if I'm not mistaken. But let's get right into it. So, like I said, since the level 3 does not heal, we had to include a healer, the Anniversary Horizons, a 3295. If you have 2 or more other Dengeki Bunko characters, all of your other Dengeki Bunko characters get 1,000 power. So a little bit extra power pump, just kind of a nice thing. And on play, heal the top card of your clock to the waiting room. Very simple, 2 copies of it. Enough said. So getting into the actual meat and potatoes, you are focusing the deck around this particular level 3 for your endgame. Let me take my headphones off real quick. Is a 3/2/10k. When this is placed on stage from your hand, look at up to X cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 card amongst them, put it into your hand, put the rest into your waiting room. X is equal to the number of characters that your opponent has, which is very interesting. So you do kind of have to be mindful of that, but I mean, if they got at least 3 or 4 characters, being able to dig is pretty good, because an effect like this typically is dig up to the number of characters that you have of a particular trait. So because you're not having to worry about your own, you just got to worry about your opponent's. You can play around it accordingly. So then at the beginning of your attack phase, if received power, which is this one, sorry, I had to remember which one it was, this particular pants trigger, and we are rocking 8 pants for this, so always a fun combination. If received power is in your climax area, and this card is in your center stage, and you have 3 or more other characters, choose one of the following abilities, and until the end of your opponent's next turn, it keeps that ability. One of them actually matters. The first one doesn't really matter on your opponent's turn, obviously. On attack, you can pay a cost, which is pay 2, pitch 1 to burn for 3, and it gets an extra 2k power till end of turn. So with the climax, it can get up to a 13 minimum before other stuff that is going to make this a very, very big number. But it also has the other effect that you can choose between is at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, choose one of your opponent's characters. That character gets -2 soul until end of turn. So depending on whether you feel you need more offense or defense, you can kind of pick and choose which effect you need at the time, which is a really cool effect. This is also the only double rare in the entire deck, I believe, because this was uncommon, this was uncommon, this was from trial deck, and this was uncommon. Yeah. So there are some rares, but this is the only double rare, and it's like a 50-cent double rare at the time of recording this. So get them while you can. Like I said, that's one reason why it's very, very budget friendly. But there are also there's a lot of cards in here that are from the trial deck, like the Horizon is. This one's from the set, though. Stray Cat Princess Elite Guard. A 2500 backup. It's your anti-change backup for the deck. You just need to include it. When you use this card's backup, you can pay the cost, which is pay 2 and sack a Dengeki Bunko character from your stage. If you do, you may put the top card of your opponent's clock into their waiting room. If you do, choose one of your opponent's characters with a level higher than your opponent's level and put it into their clock. So, very, very fun. It's also very good guaranteed removal. Just for a little bit of extra like kind of protection, because you can early play the level 3 with another effect we'll see later on. I just wanted to include between that anti-change, but also to have this one, Neat and Tidy Girl Jess. This is from the trial deck. It's a 2500 backup, but when you use the backup, you can give an extra 1k, so it's a 3500 backup. So you definitely can keep this on the field, but there's gonna be other ways. Like this next card. This next card's a very, very interesting thing. 3 copies of Graduation, Miyuki, and Tatsuya. It's a 2/15k. It can't be chosen by your opponent's effects. It just straight up has hexproof. That alone is going to be kind of nice. But all of your level 3 or higher characters in front of this card get plus 2k power, and you are obviously trying to summon as many copies of this as possible. But once again, like I said, that number we mentioned before of 13 all of a sudden becomes 15, which is kind of big. When your other honor student and irregular Miyuki and Tatsuya, which is this level 3, become reversed in battle, you can discard 2 blue cards from your hand. If you do, rest the level 3 and reverse the character that reversed them. So it's kind of a no you Uno reverse card, which is kind of nuts. Like, it's kind of cool. It does focus on you have to discard blue cards. This does mean if you have extra copies of the climaxes, you can work around those. But that's another reason why I wanted to keep this to as many blue cards as possible. Like the Horizon's blue, but all the backups and the little extra cards in here are not. So you have 7 non-blue cards. But I mean, this isn't going to come up with so much because, like I said, your stuff's going to be pretty big. But you can use this and probably actually take care of your opponent. Is going to see this and has to play around it. That's kind of the big thing. It's more of it's a threat when it's on the field. So we also have 2 copies of Junior and Senior Tatsuya and Mayumi. It's a 2/2k. When this is placed on stage from your hand, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a Dengeki Bunko character, choose one character in your opponent's center stage, and that character gets negative 6,000 until end of turn. This is going to be relevant for the level 1 combo to make certain that you can like get some reverses. And the only non-Dengeki Bunkos are the climaxes. You don't have events or anything in here to worry about. But also, once again, if they have hexproof or something, that obviously gets stopped by that. But it is, and also targets center stage only. It would be funny if you could hit like a back row with this, but obviously they're not going to let you do that. Now, this does have some anti-change in the deck, though. This particular one says, when it becomes reversed, if the level of the battle opponent is higher than your opponent's level, you can put that character at the bottom of your opponent's deck. A bottom deck reverser is pretty good. But even though that is built into the Mahouka set, I did want to, or the Mahouka, like, I don't want to say set, but like the section of Mahouka cards from Dengeki Bunko, I still wanted to include a copy of the backup. So, it's too good not to. But we do have 2 more backups right here. This Fear in Cube Fear, it's basically just a free 2k backup. It's simple. But that is going to be because I wanted to include some extra backups which you could just replace with other cards, other blue cards or something if you want. But it all focuses around this level 1 Tatsuya. It's a 4500. During your turn, if you have 2 or more other Dengeki Bunko characters, this gets plus 2k power. So it becomes a 6/5 during your turn. That number is going to get bigger when we get to some other cards. But it does also matter because the climax combo requires you to reverse. So that's probably the only downside, but it's very easy to do from the trial deck. It's just really good. But when the battle opponent becomes reversed, if Clash with the Visitor, which is this one, my head's covering it. God bless. I was going to just skip past having to show it, but my head was covering it. So, but it is this one. If you have that, You can and you have 2 or more other Dengeki Bunko characters. You can discard a card if you do search your deck for up to 2 Dengeki Bunko characters and add them to your hand. Very, like, kind of, like, what was it? I was going to say Zekken Yuki, but it's kind of like there is a Fubuki from Hololive, one of the trial decks, but it was a salvage. It was a salvage 2-back for basically on reverse pitch 1 as well. But this is a on reverse pitch 1 and search for 2. So you can definitely set up your combos and everything, but you can also still be a little defensive with this. And like I said, once we get to this Miyuki, I'll explain. But continuing right on down the line, I wanted to include some other tech cards. So 1035, Dressed Up Miyuki and Lino. When this is placed on stage from hand, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is a Dengeki Bunko, choose one of your characters and it gets 2k power till end of turn. You can always give that buff to the Tatsuya or to itself, but you're probably going to give it to the Tatsuya. When this is placed on stage from hand, you can discard a card. If you do, choose one level 0 or lower character in your waiting room, put it in any position of your stage. So basically being able to let you get back your level 0 characters. And there's honestly quite a few you could get. Obviously the Brainstormer you could effortlessly get, which is just a good card. This particular Miyuki is very good, and probably the last target I would say is this particular level 0 Miyuki and Tatsuya, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But because of that, this is actually really good. You could probably bump this up more, but I mean, I feel like 2 is pretty decent right now. 4 copies of Course 2 students, Erika and Leo. Honestly, one of my favorite characters is Erika. There's 1035. When this is placed on stage from hand, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a Dengeki Bunko character, she gets 3k power until end of turn. Until the end of your opponent's next turn. Sorry, I forgot about that little extra line of text there. It matters. So it's a 65 for a while. On attack, all of your characters get the following ability. This is kind of nuts. When this card's trigger check reveals a climax, you can pay 1. If you do, put the top card of your deck into your stock and choose one of your characters, and it gets an extra 2k power till end of turn. Being able to like pay out the pants trigger is kind of cool. You do blind stock, which is kind of a weird thing, so you do have to be mindful of that. But if you absolutely do need like the power pump, the Tatsuya is gonna get over some stuff. So very good there. And it gets big enough, just like extra little 65, so wanted to include that. This Mikoto needed to be included. Yes, this is an 8 pants, but I wanted to include this because from the trial deck, it is a climax swapper. It's a 003k, it can't side, and like I said, it's a climax swapper. So on play, pay 1, pitch a climax to grab back 1. Now typically I would try to include like 2 copies of the climax swapper, but once again, it's 8 pants. You're probably going to get the climaxes anyway. I just wanted to include it just in case. So, and there was no Mahouka Brainstormers, so I wanted to include at least a decent Brainstormer, and this was probably the best one that was like the cheapest. Neat Detective Alice. It's a 0015. This has a very interesting first effect. I don't really think I've ever seen this on another Brainstormer, or like a lot of other cards just don't do this. At the beginning of your main phase, look at the top card of your deck and look at all of your stock. You return them back to the original position, but you get to see, I look at the top card, I know it's a Dengeki Bunko character. Cool. All of my effects that are top check effects can pop off this turn type thing. Or if I see that it's a Brainstorm, I could go ahead and attack for the Brainstorm. But being able to look at all of your stock, like legally, not cheating, that's actually pretty cool. I don't really see that effect that much. So I feel even if you're not running a Mahouka deck, I feel this uncommon Brainstormer is very like overlooked and probably stronger and much more useful than you think. Like, I'm typically able to remember a lot of the cards in my stock, but sometimes over the course of a game, you just forget. So I feel if you are playing Dengeki Bunko, this is like a good Brainstormer to have. But it also has a pay 1 rest this, mill 4. For each climax, you get to search your deck for 1 Dengeki Bunko character. So just typical, like, pretty generic Brainstorm effect, sure. But the information of being able to remind yourself, oh, okay, what's in my stock? How should I play? Maybe I remember that there's a climax stuck in my stock, but I don't remember how far down it is. That information can honestly be very useful. Like I said, even if you're not pulling off like these shenanigans, like just get this card, it's good. This is also from the trial deck. 2 copies of Siblings Immeasurable by Standards, Tatsuya and Miyuki. It's a 0/500. At the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you can pay the cost if you do move this card to an open position of your backstage. You're probably never going to use that. You're going to use it for the bond, which is on play. You can discard a card to grab back the level 1 Tatsuya combo from your waiting room back to your hand. So, 4 copies of Course 2 students, Mikihiko and Mizuki. So 0/35. It's oversized, so it has a downside of giving all of your characters the ability that they can't side attack, but it's whatever. This does have a very, very good act ability, though, which, once again, could be useful in any Dengeki Bunko deck. Just wanted to point this out, though. An act of sack this and pitch a card from hand to salvage back a Dengeki Bunko character from your waiting room. Just really good. So, I mean, even the whole, like, can't side attack thing is basically negligible when you're going to be able to just get, like, whatever you need. Maybe, like I said, more copies of the Tatsuya. Maybe you want specific buffers. This is actually one we mentioned before, so this is a card you could very easily get. But this is just a very good card. Anyway, Anniversary Miyuki. This is kind of where I had the whole backup strategy in mind. It's a 0/15, Anniversary Miyuki. All of your other strategic class magician Tatsuya get 1,000 power constant. That's this one. It also has a global 500 to all Dengeki Bunko. So let's do the math. That's an extra 15 power to this Tatsuya constantly. So it's a 106k defensively, a 108k offensively. So I kind of wanted to include the extra little 2k backups just on the off chance he would be able to survive an extra turn and be able to be able to get over stuff, do what you needed to. Now you do need to be mindful, because if you're able to just back up on your opponent's turn, that's a 1 less target that you're able to try to reverse for your climax combo. So that's something you do have to keep in mind. But because he sits at like a 106k, and that's assuming you don't play, like, 2 Miyukis or something. I mean, you're going to want to play, like, other stuff, like the Brainstormers and stuff backstage. But if you are able to, like, keep this thing fairly big, you can, like, sit on the backups and your opponent's like, am I actually going to be able to kill that this turn or not, But 3 copies of that. 3 copies of Summer Festival, Miyuki, and Tatsuya. Now, this is actually a very, very interesting card. So, for one, I'm just going to say the act ability first. It has an act of tapping itself to give another character 1,000 power. So that alone, being able to give the 1,000 buff to, like, the level 1 Tatsuya is pretty cool. But also, during your climax phase, when received power is placed on your climax area, you can, and your level is 2 or higher, so you have to be at least level 2 or higher. Pay 1, sack this, to summon a copy of the level 3 from your hand to the stage. Very nice to be able to early play your boss monster, quote unquote, of the deck, to kind of use Yu-Gi-Oh terms here. Just really cool being able to early play, being able to just go ahead and get that out. It replaces itself like immediately because you can dig based off how many characters your opponent has. So being able to set up that combo and everything is really cool. Go ahead and get it popping off at level 2. Also, you could still do this at level 3 if you want, because it's a reduced cost. So, not saying you would, but I mean, you can. The option's there. Then we have, lastly, 2 copies of Course 1 students, Shizuku and Honoka. It's a 0/1k. When this is placed on stage from your hand, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's level 2 or higher, put it into your stock. And when this is placed on stage from your hand, you can pay 2 stock. If you do, return all cards from your waiting room to your deck and shuffle your deck. So you can refresh and not take penalty. Always good. It's one of those times I can tell Ben I will forget to take that refresh point. So, but that's whatever. And that is going to be it for that. Obviously, 4 copies of Clash with the Visitor, which is for the level 1 combo, and 4 copies of Received Power, which is the level 0 and level 3 combo. But yeah, that is going to be it for the deck. Like I said, this is not meta. I don't expect this to be good. This is very, very much a budget deck. Maybe future me will go price out the cards or something and show it on screen. If I do, cool. If not, hey, just know that this was like stupidly cheap. I mean, I bought basically all of these cards. I need to see how much I spent. I know that I picked up these when they were like 50 cents a piece. They might be like $1 now, but they're very, very cheap. It's probably one of the cheapest double rares in all of Dengeki Bunko because everyone's looking at the Shana and the shiny shit. So, I mean, while they're distracted by that, go get, fun stuff. But that's just me. Anyway, thank y'all very much for watching. It is greatly appreciated. Feel free to join the Discord if you want. Link for it will be in the description. With that, we have some other really fun decks coming down the pipeline now that I'm able to get back and kind of take my time on stuff. But that's going to be it. Thank y'all very much, and we will see you on the flip side. Peace.